Hello everybody, I'm Nick Johnson and welcome back to the Classical Music Indy Host Challenge, brought to you by the National Bank of Indianapolis. In my normal show, Classical Pairings, I go around the city and I talk to bartenders and chefs and musicians and we have a good old time. During the pandemic, we're not really able to do that, but we've come up with a fun alternative. So every week, a local leader in classical music is sending me a piece of music and I'm coming up with a cocktail that you can make at home that uses a local spirit. So today we have Clare Longendyke from the Music in Bloom Festival. Let's see what she's got for me. Take it away, Clare.
Hi, everybody. My name is Clare Longendyke. I am a classical concert pianist based in Indianapolis, and I am also the artistic director of the Music in Bloom Festival. And Nick, I am here to challenge you today to create a beverage that is inspired by Rachmaninoff's solo piano piece, Variations on a Theme of Corelli. And here's why. This piece is based on an extremely beautiful and very simple theme that dates all the way back to the Baroque era of classical music. Arcangelo Corelli originally is said to have composed it, although there's some contention there about who actually composed the theme. But Rachmaninoff credits Corelli with it. And then afterwards, Rachmaninoff weaves this 20 or so minute long solo piano work that takes Corelli's theme and reframes it into 21 different variations. So what I'm imagining would be complicated about creating this piece into a drink would be finding a way for different layers of taste to come out in the same way that the theme comes out in different textures and variations over the course of Rachmaninoff's piece. Good luck.
All right, so let's come up with a cocktail that pairs with Sergei Rachmaninoff's Variations on a Theme of Corelli. And I've decided to go with a twist on a classic. Just as Rachmaninoff is using a very old and established piece of music to create something new, we're going to be doing a new martini. And we're going to call this the Rachmaninoff Martini. I think a martini works well for this because we're going to be able to blend Italian and Russian kind of ideas, but we're going to come up with something very subtle, very smooth, but at times very aggressive, that I think is going to match this piece well. I'm going to be serving this into a martini glass. I'm going to serve it up, meaning it's not going to be on ice, but rather in this glass so it won't be any further diluted after I make it. If you don't have a martini glass, you can just make this really ultimately in any glass. In a martini glass, you're going to be able to get more of the aroma, though. That's the main difference. For our local spirit, we're going to use 1205's Artisan Vodka. This is one of my favorite local vodkas. It works well in almost every single cocktail. It is smooth, it's a little bit buttery, it tastes to me, really blends well in almost any sort of cocktail you can throw at it. We're also going to use Montenegro. This is an Italian Amaro. So in a regular martini, we might use something like a vermouth, but instead we're going to use this Amaro. It's an Italian herbal liqueur. This one just packs this punch of vanilla and orange, but it's also very subtle. It's a very old recipe, and I think I was going for, like, if we have our Italian and our Russian here, I think we get something kind of fun. We're going to change it up a little bit with some Woodford Reserve spiced cherry bitters. I realize you might not have these. I was fortunate enough to be gifted these for Christmas last year, and they're really pretty fantastic. And you can at any liquor store find some cherry bitters. And so we're going to end up with kind of an orange and vanilla and cherry flavor on this. As opposed to a really citrus or a really olivey martini, which is the most common. Though we are going to put just a little bit of lemon juice in there because we don't want to mess too much with the classic. So let's go ahead and build this drink. We're going to start with 2 ounces of the 1205 vodka. And a little bit extra spilled in, but that's okay. I just always call that the friend bump if I'm making cocktails for people. Just a little extra bump. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, and then we're going to put in a little Montenegro. We're going to do an ounce of this. Honestly, if you don't have Montenegro, if you pick it up to make this spirit, you could just sip this by itself, and it's really pretty delicious. We're going to do just a tiny bit of lemon juice, only like a couple drops. And I'm not even going to do a peel or anything on this. I don't want the lemon to be overwhelming, but I want a little bit of crispness that it's going to add. And then I'm going to add a pretty generous amount of these cherry bitters. I'm actually going to do almost, not quite a whole dropper, but several drops, because I'm wanting a lot of the cherry flavor. I toyed with actually putting a cherry in the martini, but it was too overpowering. It made it sort of candy sweet. I'm wanting a little bit of the flavor of the cherry, but not too much sweetness. We're now going to stir this a lot. James Bond has lied to you. Do not shake your martinis. It's never going to end up well for you. You simply want to stir it, and you want to stir it for a while, because we're going to be serving this up, and so it's there's not going to be ice in it, and so the only chill that you can give it is right now. And the more you stir it, the colder it gets, because it's just more and more coming into contact with the ice that's in it, and you're going to get a little bit of ice melt, which is a fine thing to have. So you should stir this, for a while. Honestly, if I was I was experimenting with this last night while I was making dinner. I got to this step, and then I walked away and tended to the stove for a minute or two. And then I came back to it, and it's just a little bit of ice melt's not a bad thing. You don't want a whole lot, though. So I'm not going to put any ice in it, but a little bit of water is just going to kind of keep it cold and cut it just a bit. So that should be good. Nice and stirred. If you don't have a fancy bar spoon, you should get one, because this makes you feel like you're fancy and happy to just stir like crazy. Okay. And now we're simply going to strain this into our martini glass. It's a very subtle color, almost orange in its color. Really quite beautiful. And I almost always garnish my cocktails. I'm actually not going to in this one, because I think that I don't really want to add any more notes to this. I think it kind of has everything I want already. So as I mentioned, it's really kind of subtle. There's some vanilla and some orange and cherry are really the biggest notes you're going to get. But again, it's sort of this play on a classic. It's very smooth, it's very subtle, but then there's a little bit from the vodka, a little bit of aggression, and then just a tiny bit of bitterness that you get from the Amaro that sort of, I think, rounds out this cocktail and matches it really well with this piece. So we would love for you to try to make this drink at home. For you to succeed in making this drink at home. So we're going to put the recipe list online. You can find it at the end of the video, or you can find it in the description. Classical Pairings is a listener-supported podcast, video series, and blog. If you like what you hear, please text PAIR, P-A-I-R, to 202-858-1233 to help us keep bringing you the best in classical music, paired with great craft food and beverage makers. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoy the Rachmaninoff cocktail. Cheers.